Mathias Cormann is the Finance Minister. He joins me now from Perth. Minister, good evening.
Good evening, Michael.
The government has announced the training places and the extension of the apprentice wage subsidy, but I guess the big question is, will there be enough jobs for all of these apprentices, all of these people going through training schemes at the end of it?
The employment numbers released today certainly are encouraging. I mean, the world is going through a tough period. Australia is going through a tough period, but back in March, Treasury was advising us that they were expecting an unemployment rate of about 10%. At the end of June, we're now looking at 7.4%, with 280,000 people having rejoined the labour market, workforce participation heading up, more than 210,000 jobs restored, 50% of them for young people, 60% of them for women in the context of the easing of restrictions. And yes, I mean, sure, it's a long way to go, but we are heading in the right direction. And I mean, compared to other parts of the world, we are in a comparatively better position compared to what we expected only a few months ago. We are in a better position. We've got to continue to work hard to remain on top of the virus where we are, and to get on top of the virus as fast as we can where there are localised outbreaks like in Victoria.
The headline figure is 7.4%, but your colleague, the Treasurer Josh Frydenberg, says the real figure, taking into account people on JobKeeper, is more than 13%. How high will the jobless rate get to in September when a lot of people are stripped of their job seeker payment?
Well, I can't speculate on the number for you now. What I can say to you, though, is that the government will continue to make responsible decisions to transition our economy through this period. I mean, of course, at the end of this initial 6-month period, the situation will not be the same for many businesses at the end of September as what it was at the end of March. Quite a few businesses have seen a comparatively strong recovery, and but those businesses that continue to be on the front line of this crisis and continue to be very hard hit, of course, we've always said that we would ensure that we provide the appropriate support through this transition to the situation on the other side.
How much extra support will there be once the formal JobKeeper scheme ends? We had the Prime Minister today saying he'll do everything it takes to provide extra money. So will we see a large-scale extension of more income support?
Well, we will be providing the appropriate levels of support. One of the things that is coming out in the data is that the job seeker number, the number of people on unemployment benefits, has actually stabilised in June. In fact, was slightly below the end of May number at the end of June. So, I mean, that is also encouraging. But, I mean, we'll continue to make judgments, and the Treasurer and I will be releasing the economic and fiscal update next Thursday. And, in the lead up to that, we will be making announcements as flagged in relation to the arrangements for JobKeeper and JobSeeker beyond September, beyond the end of September.
I want to talk about the government's approach to suppressing the virus. The government isn't a fan of the elimination strategy. Implicit in that approach, though, isn't it, Minister, is that there is going to be a continued, hopefully, low level of infections and, in the worst case, more deaths. Is that a scenario you think Australian people are really comfortable with?
Well, if you compare the Australian situation to the international context, every single death is tragic and is one that we would prefer to avoid. But if you look at the number of deaths from coronavirus in Australia compared to what is experienced in the UK, the US and many other parts of the world, it is extremely low. Elimination is just not realistic when you have significant daily increases in the number of infections all around the world. We've got Australians coming back to Australia from those parts of the world where there are significant increases in infections. I mean, we do want to remain engaged to the extent we can in international trade to preserve a level of strength in our economy, to preserve a level of opportunity in our economy.
How much is that possible, though, international trade and indeed reopening our international borders if we continue with this strategy and don't go all out for elimination?
Well, elimination is not realistic. I mean, the level of harm that you would have to do to the economy, the level of harm that you would have to do to working Australians, to families around Australia, would be completely disproportionate. I mean, what we are focused on is on suppressing the spread of the virus as much as we can, and if we can maintain zero community transmission, I mean, that's great, but you can't set yourself up for an expectation that, when you've got hundreds of thousands of new cases, on a daily basis just about around other parts of the world, with Australians coming back to Australia from other parts of the world, with Australians still required to engage in order to keep our economy going to the best at the best possible level. You just can't completely shut our country off from the rest of the world.
Mathias Cormann, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us.
Always good to talk to you.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 7:30's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.